This podcast is brought to you by Spirits and Distilling for those who make and drink great spirits. Join our free email newsletter for technical and creative distilling stories in your inbox every week. Learn more at spiritsanddistilling.com.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Craft Spirits and Distilling podcast. My name is Sydney Jones. I'm one of your hosts. We are on episode number 18 today of this season, episode number 40 overall, which is awesome and exciting to think about. Today, I am interviewing my very good friend, Joe O'Sullivan. He is the master distiller at Minden Mill Distilling in Minden, Nevada. I met Joe when he was still working up for Hood River up in Oregon. Joe is absolutely fantastic at what he does. He is a huge authority on brandy and whiskey, but in particular, American single malt. And they're making a lot of really cool things at Minden Mill. And they have exploded very quickly in the past year or two since Joe has been over there. So before we get into all the cool things that he is working on, as a reminder for those who are listening, G&D Chillers understands that each distillery's chilling requirements are unique. On every distillery project, G&D offers the front-end design and engineering your team needs at no cost to you. Hank Presley, head distiller at Moondrop Distillery, says, "Early on, we made a decision to partner with quality American-made companies. One of those companies was G&D Chillers, and we are proud of that choice. Our equipment from them has run long and strong. We put up our first barrel in our rickhouse in September 2021, and over the past 3 years, we have put back more than another 540 barrels. What a great decision to team up with a company like G&D Chillers. Reach out for a quote today at gdchillers.com. So you guys who are listening right now cannot see Joe as I'm talking to him, but I can see Joe. Joe, when we first logged on, has these amazing Halloween decorations behind him. And they're giving me a lot of joy because I'm very much into Halloween. Joe is really into Halloween. And it's one of the first things that we bonded over when we first met many years ago.
Yeah, we quickly understood that horror was a love language, and that those of us who understood this always had something in common and always had a movie recommendation we can toss at each other.
We like spirits in our glasses. We like spirits on our screens. We like to be disturbed. If you like horror movies and are listening, please feel free to send me recommendations because I love them. And then I'm just going to send them to Joe as well.
Yeah. And also anyone out there who hasn't seen Ugly Stepsister, watch Ugly Stepsister.
Man, I dropped the ball on that one.
It's so good.
I know. It's on the list. I haven't been to see Weapons yet.
And Weapons is also amazing.
So I've heard some mixed things. I've heard everyone that I've seen online is obsessed with it. And then one of my guys at work saw it and he's like, I don't know. So now I'm a little anxious about it. And I think I'm just going to wait for it to be available to stream instead of driving 45 minutes to the movie theater. The closest movie theater to me is 45 minutes away.
I totally get that. I think that's a responsible choice. I would say the big difference is that expectations. Going into it, go into as blind as possible. Don't expect some insane horror movie. Just don't expect anything. And it's a lot of fun. Barbarian was a really similar experience.
This is what I tell everyone who watches Barbarian is do not look up anything about Barbarian. Just go into it blind and just let it completely fuck with your head. And that's the best way to experience that film. And I stand by that statement.
A controversial opinion, I liked Weapons more.
Ooh, okay, cool. Awesome. This is the exact reason why I brought you on this podcast today. To catch up about
not to talk about whiskey at all.
No.
I know that there's probably a ton of just people who hate horror movies listening to us right now and absolutely want this
with it.
Can't you talk about barrels?
God, just tell me about booze. We're getting there. I swear to God. One of my other favorite early Joe memories is when we first met. We were at an American Craft Spirits Association conference, and we were in a Lallemand course, and they before maybe as they were talking, they were like, "Oh, by the way, we're giving away a copy of the alcohol textbook, and it's in a raffle. So like we're going to draw for it after this. If you want to be entered into that, go put your name in the hat. And Joe and I were the only two people that just like immediately stood up, and we like beelined it to the Lallemand table, and we started up the conversation as we're like trying to like outwalk each other, trying to get to this textbook. And then we both won it. I don't know how that happened. You got a copy, I got a copy, and I'm not mad about it because I love that book.
This is the alcohol textbook 6th edition. We're currently using it right now at work pretty aggressively because it's such a reliable resource. One of my great distillers that I work with, Chelsea Hendricks, like I keep on telling her, I was like, here's a highlighter, mark it up, like go to town. Like you be green, I'll be yellow, like, but go nuts. Like, cause it's so thick with information that I welcome like anyone who wants to read it. If they find something good, underline it. I'll miss it otherwise.
It's so good. I love how approachable it is for someone who sometimes my eyes glaze over when I'm reading really, really dense text. And it feels very absorbable, even though that's not a word. Maybe it is. It feels like it is easy to digest, even though it's like some really heavy, fibrous content, you know?
I read that whole thing. And I find that the fact that I was able to, and I actually enjoyed it, was pretty wild. Like I found every page of it useful. Yeah. So this is now an advertisement for a $300 textbook. So people out there.
Yeah, worth it though. Worth it. Yeah. And if you can win it in a Lallemand giveaway at ACSA, also very much worth it because you meet cool people like Joe. So Joe is working out at Minden Mill Distilling. Can you tell us a little bit about Minden Mill and your journey to get there? And Hood River as well, where you were when I met you. You worked with Caitlin Bartlemay. Caitlin was also a guest early on in this podcast, and we love Caitlin. Caitlin and I send each other memes constantly. We are in a group chat where we just talk about Lord of the Rings all the time. It's a lot of fun.
I'm aware of this group chat, by the way. I've been told all about it. So for the people who are out there, if you can't tell by listening to the show for a little while, our industry is incredibly tight. We're very, very, very good friends, all of us, and it's nice to kind of like hear stories about what your friends are doing. And I've been really lucky in my career because I've worked with so many good people. I started in 2005 at Clear Creek Distillery when it was on Northwest 23rd, the original location. So that would be the third craft distillery in the United States and the place where American single malt was first made. And it's currently a Matador tequila bar, which always kind of cracks me up. There should be a plaque, Mayor of Portland, Oregon, if you're out there, put a plaque on that thing.
Yeah, here was American single malt born.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
And so then I worked at the two other locations in Northwest 24th, as well as where it is now in Hood River, Oregon. But on the in-between, I had left Clear Creek to just try to make a little bit of a name for myself in New York. And I worked for quite a few really amazing distilleries out there, had a great time, met really nice people. I think I achieved what I wanted to do because it definitely got me into that next level. I knew I could never really afford or really understand how to start a distillery myself. So I thought, well, I gotta work on me if I can't generate the cash. And then I moved back to Oregon, hoping one day to work at Clear Creek again, and didn't have a job in distilling for about a year and a half and became a carpenter. I'd been a carpenter before being a distiller, and I came back to it for a year and a half working out there doing housing remodels. And then just one day I got a call from Hood River Distillers, and they had purchased Clear Creek at the time. Steve McCarthy was looking to retire. Steve McCarthy was absolutely my mentor in this industry and a man I greatly respect, the individual who started Clear Creek Distillery and the man who invented American single malt. Anyway, so Steve was getting on in years, and he wanted to sell, so he sold to Clear Creek, or he sold Clear Creek to Hood River Distillers, and they gave me a call. They said, "Hey, do you want to be head distiller of this place and really you have to move the building." So I had to figure out how to disassemble the entire distillery and move it across the Cascade Mountains, including all 500, 600 barrels or so. And I did it alongside Caitlin. It was probably the best fortune I've had in my career, was at one point being told that I got the honor of being Caitlin Bartlemay's boss. And she and I developed a really amazing friendship, and still, just like Sydney, like she and I text all the time. She's one of the best people in the industry, as well as brilliant, like just incredibly smart. And then one day I got a call. I got a call from a recruiter that was looking to take over for Johnny Jeffrey, another really amazing distiller and friend of ours, who had worked at a place called Bentley Heritage, which, due to reasons of COVID and a few other things, just was not. It was being sold, but it was this famed distillery. I mean, like, I had heard all about the technology in here and with the capabilities, and that they were this estate distillery. And so when presented with something where I had always worked with agriculture, especially at Clear Creek, and working with orchardists, I knew fruit so darn well. I loved it. So having the ability to work with grain in that same way, and to understand soil nutrients, varietal differences, grow days, all that stuff, to bring it into the distillery, that was just this wonderful opportunity to discover something new within an industry that I had already been in for almost 2 decades. Or probably 2 decades at that point. No, almost 18 years at that point. That's what we're doing.
You're just out there in Nevada at what I would, and I told this to Johnny back when it was still Bentley Heritage, and Johnny was still there. In my mind, that facility was the dream distillery that I would build in, like, The Sims, video game. Like, if I could have all the bells and whistles, like all of the cool stuff, if I could have this dream distillery, it would have been that facility. It checked all the boxes. And now you have been given the reins to it. How is that transition, going, not only just moving to a different state across the country, but to this entirely different operation with different equipment, different capabilities, and some of it very niche equipment, like that oil jacketed still that you guys have.
Yeah, the thermocalandria system. I mean, everything in there is niche. Sometimes it's wonderful, and sometimes it's so temperamental that you want to tear your hair out. But that's what you get. What was built here was. I just want to pause. I mean, this distillery was built initially by kind of with the mindset that their elegance and beauty and kind of like a reverence for the craft should be reflected in the architecture of the building. So there is a symmetry to everything. There is like this beautiful strength and kind of like temple-like quality to just the architecture. But it's also very clear that the people who made these original choices had the means, but also the philosophy that technology was equally beautiful and elegant if done right. And so it all is supposed to operate in this real easy way. And for most of the time it does. It's a wonderful system. But I think it would get boring if things didn't occasionally break. I mean, I kind of like a moment of desperate shenanigans at work every once in a while. You do too, don't you,
Joe? I've been commissioning a brand new distillery for the past year. That's my whole life. It's all these things in theory, which are supposed to make my life a lot easier. This level of automation and control that we have, and just the growing pains of a new process facility and trying to get it running. It's just been a lot of shenanigans. I'm like, I don't know if you can see my face, but like the PTSD, that like little like flashback that I just got of, things going wrong that were not supposed to go wrong. But that's show business.
Yeah, I mean, this is my second time doing it, because doing it at Clear Creek and then redoing it here. We're both that experience over and over again. And I do have to say, I don't ever want to do it again. So maybe I'm being a little romantic with my statements about saying I like that sort of shenanigans.
So to say, you just want to commission forever? Because I do not want to commission forever. Never.
No, never, ever.
Never. Nope.
Yeah, but it is kind of built in this beautiful way, and learning all this equipment is absolutely just a challenge, but also testing my abilities. I think the hardest thing that's been part of my job is coming in and representing so many people who have already been there, and so I do try to be mindful about giving people shout outs and I hardly ever a podcast goes by where I don't try to say, I'm just one person in a team, because as you know, there's a ton of people in this industry really putting the work, and we're the ones that get on the podcasts.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
amongst that are people like Johnny Jeffrey who, set the grain bills in motion with John Crumbly, our lead blender. And what was cool for me as an outsider when I was back at Hood River Distillers is trying these whiskeys as they aged, as they went on, because we'd be at ACSA conferences and Johnny would bring out a little, sample, be like, this is where it's at. And so I had already watched the progression and was excited about it every year. And following through with that was really, really kind of fun, and making sure that with this first release, this was an influence of, and it remains to be an influence of, like, myself in delivering it and the final molding of it, but is still something that I'm trying to honor and respect the work that went into it prior to me becoming master distiller.
Yeah.
And then, because I have my own, I got my own good fortune already. At this point, it's not about my ego or anything like that. But it's about trying to make sure that the job is done right.
Yeah. So you guys have released a bourbon, a rye, and an American single malt. Like, those are the big main three that you guys are working on and have been made available to the public, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And all of those are estate grain. So, once again, what's really cool about it is that we're out there working with the ranch, working with the farmers, and making sure that the grain that we're growing is to the standard that we need. It's the varietals we want. It's planted when we want. The soil is treated in the ways that it needs. And so it has this greater oversight where I'm finding that just unbelievably fun to get good at. And I recently dosed one of my wife's oxalises, which is the clover plants. I dosed it with a bunch of nutrients that made the leaves like super duper huge while she was out of town. So she went from having like, I don't know, maybe 1.5 inch leaves to having like 5-inch leaves across the whole thing almost out overnight. So learning how to do some of that stuff with soil nutrients is kind of fun.
Those are edible, right? You can eat those.
Really?
Oxalis plants? Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. They're edible. Yeah.
Well, I just made the biggest one ever. I could probably sell that thing.
So you have these 3 whiskeys out, but Johnny was the master and commander who really laid down this liquid. Tell me a little bit about, when you got there, you're evaluating these barrels. What were you looking for? What was your mindset blending whiskey that was not necessarily yours to begin with, but figuring out the house style of what was going to be Minden Mill? Was it going to be distinctive from Bentley Heritage? Were you trying to incorporate elements of what Bentley Heritage was forecasting with those whiskeys? Or were you trying to create your own unique product with what was originally another company's spirit? It's a tricky. It was a tricky
it's an
thing.
Interesting balance. Yeah. And I'd like to say, I would say that. I would say that going into it was definitely about making sure it's the best balanced. I try to influence things at that stage because it was already years in, to really make sure that the balance is correct. You have at 2 and 3 years into an age, you have a lot that's already been done in terms of flavor development, and so just making sure that there was and aside from that, our distillery is really fruit forward. And so that's arguably part of the terroir that we're getting out of the grain. I'm going to take a quick aside to just mention, like, we've joined the EWA, the Estate Whiskey Alliance, in the University of Kentucky, and they're doing this initial work on determining how terroir and climate affect flavor within grain, and to do it scientifically and use the resources of the University of Kentucky in that favor. And so, well, the argument between is or is there not terroir within grain has been going on for some time. I've always been on the side that, like, you grow something somewhere, it's going to be affected by how it's grown. And so you do get these really strong fruit characteristics that seem to be coming across all of the grains we grow. And working with that, because you don't try to eradicate it. Make sure it's exactly what you want. Make sure it's something that this is the foundation of your flavor. making sure that it's rounded out and proportional. So if that's the fruitiness and you want to add something that's a little bit more of a caramel, of toasted sugar, like what levels are these at? Do you want to make something really big? Do you want to make something that's a little bit more controlled? And do you want to make something that's a little bit more controlled and well balanced? That's kind of the oversight that I wanted to keep at the back end. And so how do you get that? Well, it takes a lot of listening as well. And so working with the distillers that are already there, working with the barrel manager and lead blender who studied under Johnny, listening to them. And then I think for months, Johnny and I went into the barrel room together once, maybe twice a week, and just sampled. And we talked about it. And one of the first things we did as a group, me, Johnny, and John, our blender, was sit down and talk and design a small 4-barrel blend of the single malt that would be eventually released with recognition of the work that Johnny did. And that's still sitting in a tank somewhere. We have that at someday for some very special, very, very limited release. We haven't quite figured it out yet. Going through that process with them, listening to Johnny, listening to John, and understanding the history and the philosophy of what they're doing, hearing the stories about how the place was built, the intention with which it was built. I mean, these are two men that really like Speyside single malt. So it had to stay reminiscent of that. And there's certain key indicators that come into that. And then sitting down with John as the samples came out, and he'd lay out a number of samples, and we'd try them together. We'd talk about it. We'd talk about proof. Does this need one more barrel in it? Does this need one less barrel at it? And over the first maybe 8 months, with regular meetings like that, we came to the blend together.
Very nice. What of the 3 whiskeys? I mean, obviously you have such a really cool history with American single malt, but of the 3, is there one in particular that you're gravitating towards, or?
Yeah. I hate to say it, I'm a little bit of a turncoat on this one because I love our rye so much. The rye does something incredibly cool. Instead of this peppery note, it's all candied orange, and that to me is so unique that I feel like it's kind of making me reevaluate a lot of other ryes, looking for something that I didn't know could be part of the flavor profile, and either not finding it at all or discovering trace amounts of it. But again, terroir, if it is a thing in our whiskey, seems to manifest in our rye the clearest. And so by just using this winter rye, we're using really well-made Siggy Moro 36-month air-dried staves for barrels. And just these high-quality barrels, this really good quality new make, and you can taste this fruitiness, this high ester quality on the new make as well. Having that manifest in the rye in a way that I've never experienced in any other rye itself kind of makes me infatuated and it's making me take a look back at some of the first whiskeys I've ever had, because I started off as a rye drinker before I was a bourbon drinker. I went rye, single malt, bourbon, and now I'm kind of like going back to that rye again and really thinking about what I've learned from our rye, in the same way that, like, I don't think there's ever been when I was at Clear Creek, I mean, I learned so much from the apple brandy. I think that was the one that no matter how many times I made it, I was learning new things about other spirits just through some of the flavors that would come out of the French oak and out of the apples themselves. There's always one teacher,
Yeah, you're preaching the choir, because I love rye. I am an unapologetic rye girl, and I have been for my entire career. I love that you are also incorporating wheat in with your rye. It reminds me a lot of the rye whiskey that I was making down in Florida, which was 60 rye, 40 wheat. No barley. It was an absolute pain in the ass to mash. It just wanted to cement a lot of enzymes.
The barley
in that
did,
one.
or just the rye, or all
the
of it?
rye and the wheat together without any malt in there. Just did not always want to mash well.
Was it half enzymes? How'd you get it done?
It's a lot of enzymes. It's a lot of AA.
Sure.
I think we may have used a beta glucanase as well. That was a long
I
time
mean,
ago.
We do a 100% rye vodka, which, if you ever just want to abuse yourself, do something that silly. It's delicious. It's amazing. I love it. But, the beta glucose is through the roof.
I did a 100% rye at Few, and I love it. Very proud of it. It's in cask. It was a really cool project that I laid out before I left. But oh my God, it's just mashing it. And I'm like, why am I fucking doing this to myself? Why?
Yeah.
Like, why? Just mix. Just fucking mix.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have a calandria at Few in the middle of the mash tun that just does not help anyone. For those of you who are listening who may not be familiar with a calandria, it's not one of the things that I would recommend for putting in a mash tun for a whiskey distillery, because it's just very tricky to work with. But we were using it for heating and cooling, I believe, if I can remember correctly. And you guys have a similar calandria type thing.
Yeah, we have a calandria, but unlike cooking the mash tray, like going into the mash tun, it's jacketed around our single malt stills. Yeah. Which I absolutely, please, my single malt, my malt brethren out there, I'm still one of you. I still care. I love our single malt. I think it's great. And that's another one that's coming from just amazing equipment and this incredible technology. So it's like the most traditional, it's Forsyth stills. And then it's the most modern, which is this thermal oil calandria, because you can heat thermal oil to pretty high temperatures without really building a lot of pressure. So it's just like mineral oil. It's the same thing. Food grade is you could cure your butcher blocks with it, kind of thing. So, but you can heat that up to like 185 degrees Celsius or higher. That's what we cook at, is 185.
Well, I'm sure you get some really cool Maillard reactions with
that's exactly it.
Yeah, just this roasty toasty that I'm sure is so cool in the distillate itself, and I'm sure matures beautifully.
Oh, it becomes, especially if you do something really silly, like if you want to just make something really special and sometimes weird as heck, just forget about a whiskey in a fermenter for too long. Really get those esters going and then run it through a system like that. And you'll have a very, you'll get these really big and amazing whiskeys. Our single malt is the biggest.
How long are we forgetting a whiskey in a fermenter, Joe?
Oh, it's not that too long, but enough that you make sure that barrels are marked a little separate.
I'm a big fan of longer fermentations to begin with, just for the sake of esterification. We've had some really nice results with 6-day beers here. Yeah. And I've heard great results with longer ones as well. So
I think it's really wonderful stuff. I wouldn't build an entire flavor profile out of just of it, but man, is it like the best seasoning in the world.
Oh, 1,000%. It's like that cast iron that you never clean. Exactly. Just letting it sit for an extra 24, 48 hours. Yeah. Yeah.
Never give up on a barrel. There's always something good in there.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of barrels, so I got to ask, I have never been out to Nevada, and I'm not super familiar with the climate out in Nevada. Tell me a little bit about the terroir that you're imparting on your whiskey just through maturation and the climate, and what drivers are you seeing out there?
That is kind of one of the hardest things about aging. It is the hardest thing about aging and maturing out there. And when I came on, I was talking to the crew there and just discussing the barrel house, the rickhouse. They said, well, it's climate controlled. And I said, well, we got to fix that. I was cocky. I had just gone and visited Todd. And I was like, I can do anything.
God bless Todd.
Yeah, he's the
He
greatest.
always comes up on every single episode that I do.
Mean, come on. He's like the master distiller. We all know that.
I know. We love Todd. I just had him on the show, and it was like the longest podcast that I've ever recorded. And after I got done talking to him, I just was like crying because I was so emotional with how great and wonderful he is.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Everything comes back to Leopold Brothers at the end.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, even for us, you and I are kind of veterans at this point, and so like even for us, we're just in awe of that guy. But anyway, yeah. So I was like, well, I can do it. Todd can do it. I can do it. If it's cocky as hell. Those are famous last words.
Famous last words.
Doesn't usually work out that way. But we looked at, and so I dug in, and I was talking to people and looking at records. In the beginning when the barrels started aging, it was all in localized climate, the same humidity, same temps, everything. And there was an angel share of about 3 to 4% per month. Just insane alcohol losses. And so the idea of how do we do this in a place that has an absolute humidity of 11% across an average absolute humidity. I mean, it's dry here. It's raining right now. I think it's specifically raining because it's Burning Man. I think this is like a joke that nature has at this point.
It was also raining when we were in Arizona, and we got to witness like the 1 in 4 times a year it rains out there in March when we were out there for the conference. Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
It's rain. Normally it's not humid here. And so we decided that, or it was decided that we were going to climate control. And so rather than just kind of pick a random spot, again, in honoring tradition is a key part of everything at Minden Mill. In honoring tradition, the rickhouse for our bourbon and our rye is climate locked to a weather station in Bardstown, Kentucky.
I was reading that and I just burst out laughing. The world is too small. How did you guys settle on Bardstown? Is it just because we claim to be the home of bourbon?
Exactly. It's like, if you're going to do it right, or do it with some style, I am really jealous of, I love the idea of localized terroir. That was in terms of maturation and climate and stuff like that. I mean, that was Hood River Distillers' whole thing. Mm-hmm. But if it's unavailable, like, you might as well go out. You might as well like copy the best, like, go after the best.
Listen, we've had some real wacky weather in Bardstown, Kentucky this year. So I can't imagine what that has been doing to your barrels with your temperature control.
The amount of it's still an insulated building. And so the amount of energy and heat locked inside that liquid mass, it softens any real extremes. I'll put it that way. But the best thing about it is when it's like incredibly hot in Nevada, there's always 1 or 2 barrel rooms I can go to. If it's cold in Nevada, I tend to go to, you can go to the Kentucky one. But if it's hot as can be, we go to our single malt rickhouse, which is entirely climate locked to a weather station in Belinda Loch, Scotland. So that's
so interesting.
So that one's always chilly. Now, do I think it's a 1-to-1 match? It's really hard to get a building to kind of do that, but it's pretty darn close. And one of the cool things about it is that you can actually see little puffs in the Scotland one, little puffs of moisture kind of like coming out of the condensers regularly as they're trying to build humidity.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think you will have a rickhouse though that will mimic Nevada conditions?
It's really hard. I would like to figure out my way around that. And, I wonder if I've thought about other ways to gather humidity during the night and try to bring it in to build humidity. But at that point, are you affecting localized climate? You're still affecting it.
I wonder if a dunnage style could potentially be advantageous.
Yeah, I think that there's things to look at. But for the moment, that'll come when I have when we build our next one. So we do have space for another one. That is for sure. It's not off the table, but the foundational brands are kind of everyone's focus for the time being, making sure that this is a good economic venture. And what's really funny is on that note, we released a coffee liqueur. We partnered up with a local roastery in Nevada called Alpen Sierra. And if there's coffee heads on here, I mean, consider this a consider this my full endorsement. Alpen Sierra, they do deliver. They're just amazing. And so we partnered up with them to develop a coffee liqueur, and like as good as our whiskey is doing, the coffee liqueur is actually starting to really keep the lights on, and we're talking, it's mass sales at this point. So we're doing really well. And once we get a couple of these brands to really get financially stable, I'm just going to start looking into the fun I can have with really affecting my stamp on this place.
I love it. Well, and I know Bentley Heritage did a coffee liqueur as well, so that it feels like it feels familiar for the brand as it has transitioned from Bentley Heritage to. I still have the Hecate
it's amazing.
Coffee liqueur. It is so good, and I love a good coffee liqueur to begin with, because I love coffee and I drink more of it than anyone I know. How are you guys producing that? Are you macerating? Are you distilling on the beans? Walk me through it.
So this is what we're doing with that, and this is one of the reasons why the partnership is really important. I knew that this was going to be bigger than in-house production could allow, so I partnered up with Alpen Sierra, and then basically had the super caffeinated weekend where I made a cold brew of every single one of their roasts and every single one of their blends and put it together as the blend for the base of it. And then we settled on a proper total dissolved solids, pH, NTUs, and all the, fun sciencey stuff we have to do. Bring it in. And then once I had the concentrate base, I was able to reverse the formula by basically a lot of the stuff I had learned at Clear Creek when making fruit liqueurs. And so again, it's a natural product. So one of the coolest things for me about it is the crema, the coffee oils will separate over time. And so has this wildly intense like richness and mouthfeel. But by working with Alpen Sierra, it's just kind of fun to bring up local businesses, and he's going to be, I'm not a coffee master. He'll make coffee better and I'll make whiskey better. Working with him on it and making sure that the concentrate was the best was a real blast. And we've been, it's been kind of fun to develop a whole major product with another local small business.
I love that. And then we mentioned
I'm pretty hardwired for community that way. You've known me for a while. You know this.
100%. Without community, you and I would not be having this conversation right now.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, exactly. And I love these really thoughtful partnerships that are not just for the sake of partnership, but just genuinely like you're bringing out beautiful things in each other. And I see that every day with my friends. I see it within my own company, and it always gets me really jazzed that like we are all so interconnected between each other, and then between all of these other agricultural enterprises, whether it's coffee, whether it's grain, whether it's oak and forestry, whatever. It's really, really fun to see how those flesh out. And I think that's one of the things that keeps our jobs exciting.
Yeah, and then you can focus on, like, you can also be selective. Just because you can do these larger projects right. You can make sure that it's all like shade grown or cafe feminino or sustainably, like reharvested. There's a million good organizations to partner up with these things, and so it travels down the line. Like us working with Alpen Sierra translated into he and I selecting mass beans from organizations that do it right. And it all kind of carries down the train with good decisions. And so it is. These partnerships are a really good time.
Is there any other liqueurs that you guys might develop and push out that you can talk about?
I have I think we're gonna, for the time being, no. I certainly want to partner up with. I was curious to partner up with some people and do a couple variations on it. That was one thing. Other things I want to do. There's one of the toughest things I want to do. So we have a bourbon, a rye, and a single malt. But I kind of want to do an American form of the Irish whiskey. And I don't want to do it because my name is O'Sullivan by any means. Like, that's the part I'm having the hardest time with, is that, like, I'm afraid it's going to be like this Irish guy from America, and just kind of piss off everybody with that sort of thing. There's an amazing distiller in Ireland called Killowen, And Brendan, who's there, he's the first person I think about. Like, once I get the green light for this, I want to go there and I want to work on it with him because he's going to be able to teach me a lot, and we'll work on, and then like we can bring that back. And so, how do we distill it 3 times on our system? What stills do we use? And one of the ideas that me and Bryce, another one of my distillers, were talking about was doing it on pot still, and then a Carl hybrid. So you can get kind of a different effect on that back end. But these are just ideas for the future. I mean, I can't wait to have the green light to start really working on some of this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And in the meantime, you're building a brand. You guys are available in several states. I texted you after it happened. I was in Boone, North Carolina at an ABC, like one of the state-run liquor stores there. And some dude behind the counter was wearing a Minden Mill hat. And I was like, I thought he works there.
That's amazing.
He's master distiller. And I got so excited. And I know you've been doing a lot of market work and trying to spread this brand. How has that been, especially, working for Foley Wines? And they're such a giant. They're a big corporation.
Yeah, they're big. And one of the things, my true title is Master Distiller of Foley Family Wine Spirits. So I do have a lot of oversight over their other spirits as well. There's nothing really to oversee. I mean, Lighthouse Gin is made out in New Zealand, and Rachel does an incredibly good job. And so there's like just the products that are coming in are wonderful, and it's a lot of me learning about these other products. I mean, I mentioned Killowen for a reason, and that's because we distribute them in the U.S. But it's me also. I mean, when I walked into the distillery on day one, I was like, well, this is what a lifetime of lying gets to you. You're exposed as a fraud when you're 45. That was exactly my first thought. Familiar at all?
It's like, oh man, I think I've had that thought once or twice in the past year and a half. Yeah.
And I still, but the opportunities that getting in over your head, or at least if it feels that way to you, allow you, is that you get to learn so darn much because you get to surround yourself by really smart people.
Exactly. Well, and like for me, the transition to big corporate land, there are so many resources and so many opportunities that I have discovered that were very different from my craft roots. And that was such a mind-blowing thing for me.
Oh, this is so much fun. Like the comparative between, because I've seen it like at the scrappiest of scrappy back in the early days when I was delivering 5-gallon glass carboys of Kirschwasser to a chocolate factory in the back of my truck. It was just like what we did was insane back then in terms of legality, but just like it was the Wild West in terms of distilling. And then HRD, which is, family owned. I mean, the Dodges are great people, wonderful people to work for and to work with. I had a great time there. And kind of there an in-between step, and then getting to Foley Wine, like, wow, is this a very different animal? And the resources within the marketing world are that's my favorite part so far, because you do have the ability to really dig in and build the brand the way you always wanted to. And that sometimes comes with some really wonderful and hilarious group decisions that don't always go well. But it is still one of those things where you're like, I never would have had this in the past. Yeah. Would I ever go back to the scrappy days? It's like, maybe not. I'm not sure. I love it, the days where I still have to get out there and break apart some piece of machinery or curse at something too much. And I love it on those days where you get to somehow, by the skin of your teeth, fix it just in time for everyone to go home exactly 25 minutes late. I love those days. But do I want every day to be that anymore? I'm kind of too old for this. I'm 47. I'm just too old for it.
That was also a similar light bulb moment for me. Thinking back, I don't necessarily think I would trade the scrappy days where I was really boots on the ground, hands in the mud, just underneath a tank with a flashlight and my phone playing like a YouTube tutorial of how to like fix some pump or whatever. But now that I have access to a marketing team and see all the thoughtfulness that go into marketing campaigns, and this is now my new big piece of advice for craft distillers is really, if you cannot do it in-house, find a good third-party marketing partner to work with, to tell your story, to push your brand out there, especially in this current climate, you know?
Yeah, and I got to toss onto that a piece of advice for people who make that, distillers who, if they find themselves in that first transition into working within a more corporate environment, at times before you really understand, kind of as Sydney was saying, the amount of consideration and the amount of care that marketing and sales puts into things, like sometimes early on you get frustrated. I think it's a very normal thing. You're adapting to a new system. But at this point, between Hood River Distillers and Minden Mill, I've been doing this within this large organization world for 10 years, and I've never been so grateful for the work that they do. Because I've worked so much with them. I'm very sympathetic to just how hard it is and how creative they are and how much they genuinely care.
Yeah. So as we start wrapping up our conversation a little bit here, we've talked about, you were handed the reins to like my Sims level craft distillery with this huge corporate backing. You are making so many cool things, and you have been given all of these tools to make all these really cool things, and you've hit this, I would say, a really cool part of your career. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I listen, I'm the luckiest guy in this industry. Where I'm at right now, I never thought I was going to get to. And so being here is just wonderful. Yeah.
Something that Molly and I just talked about on an episode was, bug out bags for distillers. Like, what should you have on you if you're navigating treacherous or uncertain waters with the way that the industry currently is? We read about layoffs every day. What are some pieces of advice or bug out bag recommendations that you have for people who might be listening? Things that have served you, things that you think are valuable that you should invest in, obviously, other than the $300 Lalon textbook.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. And there's a couple of things that I think I can offer as advice. One is, the first thing is this principle that just of keeping calm. My supervisor likes to call it VUCA, which is volatile, uncertain, chaotic, and aggressive. Anyway, the idea is like, just when you're kind of feeling your blood boil, just say that to you. Remember what that means, and just like keep calm through it. And it was something I really took to heart, and I've brought it into my personal life. I genuinely think it's been one of those fun things that sometimes gets into, that you learn from work, that you're actually like, well, that's actually just good life stuff. So there's that. Two, mind your ego. Like, this is a tough time. It's not just a tough time for people in our industry. It's a tough time. If you're stuck, if you're feeling like, man, I'm out of work, and you get an opportunity and it's maybe not exactly your thing, like, still jump on it. I learned a ton from making Pendleton at Hood River Distillers, and I didn't think I was going to, but as my career's gone on, realize I learned so much from that process, and I'm proud of what I've learned, and I'm proud of the stuff we made. Keep yourself in check. It's an important one. Fear of selling out is for the privileged. If you still gotta be able to eat at the end of the day. So keep that in mind. And then 3 is, remember how you leave. The important thing is, like, how you leave matters. So, and I say that because you never know where your next job's going to be. So if I have a choice between 2 people, and there's one person that's perfect, and there's one person, perfect but left horribly, just a big F off leave, I'm going to not choose that person. If there's somebody that left with consideration and conscientiousness, and they might not be perfect, I'm going to choose the individual who knows how to say goodbye. So those are the three things I'd say, because it is an uncertain time, but it doesn't mean it's always going to be. So, keep calm, keep your head down, and say thank you, because we
don't get excited.
Yeah, don't get too excited. And quite honestly, when we were teenagers in our early 20s, who the hell thought we'd be here? So getting even a taste of this is better than what most people get. I don't forget that.
Yeah, that's on my shift at work. That is our slogan. Don't get excited. I'm having that embroidered on things for my guys for Christmas is don't get excited. Because you and I are good friends, I feel like I can ask you this next question as well that I have not asked other guests that I've had on this show that share your title. What does master distiller mean to you? Because I can ask you that, and I can't always ask other people that.
I know, it's such a hard concept, isn't it?
It's a hard concept.
It's so hard.
And I know what it means in Kentucky, or I know what is expected of it here in Kentucky. But I'm curious, what does that mean in Nevada? What does it mean out on the West Coast? What does it mean in the Pacific time zone? What does it mean to you?
I can tell you what it means in my experience. And I think it is a title that means a little something different to everyone else. To me, it's really a leveling up along your individual path. And so Todd Leopold, master distiller. Sydney Jones, master distiller. You're not?
Sure. Well, I'm a lead distillery technician. That's my title.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not. No, I have a master distiller. Same as Connor. He's great.
Oh, Connor's a really good guy.
I love Connor.
Yeah, Connor's great.
Yeah, but I don't. It's never a title that was put on me. B, I don't know if I don't know if I embody that. I don't know.
All right, so going back to the answer. So Todd is
1,000%.
Caitlin Bartlemy
also 1,000%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think
no
Caitlin and I have had a lot of talks like this because we share similar paths. And this is how we're different than Todd. A master distiller in our mindset is forgive me, Bartlemy, for speaking with our. I'm talking for you, but you're going to agree with me. You know it. Is really a master distiller comes with a long view of a brand and building the brand itself as first priority, as well as, at least along the path I've had, embodying multiple brands within a company. So overseeing, I like that answer. Making sure that I am overseeing, Minden Mill High Ground Vodka, Evil Bean Coffee Liqueur, all the work that we're doing with Chip Tate, Ampersand, and all those products, Lighthouse Gin, and our agency partners, being able to represent that, to understand their production forward and backward. All of that kind of is what justifies it in my path. Now, do I enjoy being called it? Absolutely not. It feels entirely too grand for me, but the argument is still the same, that given the amount of experience that one individual has, regardless of the way in which you get it, there is still an argument to be made that you've reached a masterful ability within your craft. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so Todd's path is Todd's path. My path is my path, but we still, within the worlds that we exist in, the paths that we've chosen or been assigned, are incredibly adept at executing or, pushing forward. And so if that's that could be applying how to do really good quality fining procedures on fruit liqueurs and how to apply that to something else. Mind you, we don't find the coffee liqueur, but there were early tests. And then also reversing it back and being what have I learned? Well, ETP swabbing of these sort of drains have to be done under this, these levels. And that's something I never did at Clear Creek. So understanding that there's so much more to learn along the way, has to be part of it too, I can only imagine. Because I think if you feel like you've got it all done, you're wholly mistaken. Yeah,
it's always a fascinating concept to me because I I'm in Bardstown. We have master distillers here. Like I live practically next door to several of them. I have one within my own company, but there's not like a certifying body that taps you on the head with a magic wand and says, "Ding, you did it." Glinda the Good Witch does not come down in a bubble and tell you that you're a master distiller.
I mean, when I started, it was when I started, at least the conversation was that like you were a master distiller if you spent 20 years in it and you ran and like you were at the higher part of your career. That was always what I kind of heard. And then as but that was when there was like 5 people in the industry. They can say what they want. We have to evolve these terms and these understandings as the industry itself evolves, kind of holding it to old traditions when we never really defined it to begin with is silly, Yeah. And we should have worried about it back in 1960 if we actually cared about it as an actual term. But the ones who, I personally find it to be just like, can you somehow get out of things a little bit easier every day? That's probably a good sign that you're approaching that stage.
Yeah. The ones that I've met, you included, Caitlin included, my boss included, the ones that I know here in Bardstown, like you can see that pixie dust come off them. Like, they shimmer. They do. They embody it. And it's cool to see, especially it's been so cool to see your transition into this role and taking the helm of this operation and making it your own, and seeing you, like your ads pop up on my social media or your face popping up on LinkedIn or something, or seeing a Minden Mill hat in North Carolina. It's so
we've had a couple of,
oh man.
It's really kind of blowing my mind a little bit, honestly. The number, I mean, I've had the occasional person just flat out recognize me in this area, which just, completely weirded out by that, which was really nice. But I'm glad that people around here care,
I love that for you. They should care.
Yeah,
You're the nicest person in the world, and you also make incredible stuff.
Oh, I'm just hanging out with a good team.
If people recognize me, I'd be like, why? Why? Did I do something wrong? Do you have a vendetta against me? Is that what it is?
Should we both give a shout out to Todd, by the way?
Shout out to Todd, man. Every time, every episode, it all comes back. It's that scene of the 2 astronauts floating in space.
I was talking about Todd Pascal.
Todd, no.
Well, Todd, every Todd. Shout out to Todds in general.
You mean it was always about Todd Leopold? It always was. With the gun against my head looking at Earth. Yeah, and also shout out to Todd Pascal. Todd he's part of your sales force for Foley Wines, right?
Yeah, he's our Florida guy.
Yeah, Todd, I knew him when I was a baby distiller in Jacksonville, Florida. So we've come full circle. Which is pretty cool. Yeah. He sent me a really cute selfie of the 2 of you.
Yeah, he loves that he loves that we have friends in common. I think that really is good. I like the guy.
He's such a sweetheart. Well, I think that's a great note for us to wrap up our podcast conversation with. But before we do, just as a quick reminder, especially you in Nevada, because it probably gets hot out there. I feel like you go through a lot of weather out there, which is why you climate control your rickhouse to Bardstown.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. Yeah, for sure. Are you going to talk about a good chiller brand? Is that
chillers are really important. And for more than 30 years, G&D Chillers has had the proven solution for distilleries. You should visit them today at gdchillers.com. And if you've,
I'm going to just personally tell you that was the hardest working, most reliable piece of equipment at Clear Creek Distillery, and somehow I never broke it, no matter how hard I tried. But things are tank. GD Chillers is a good brand.
I fought with a lot of chillers in my life and my career. I've never fought with a GD chiller. Yeah. I can tell you that. I've fought with other ones. Chillers are important. If you've enjoyed this podcast, you should go to spiritsanddistilling.com and sign up for the free newsletter that we send out that features news stories every week from some of the best writers and distillers in the distilling world. Joe, if people want to learn more or taste for themselves some of the results of the projects you've been working on, how can they dig a bit deeper? Where can they find your stuff? Where can they find you?
You can find our products at mindenmill.com or evilbean.com or highgroundvodka.com. And there is online order links for all that stuff. And then also a shop locator, which is new and absolutely freaked me out when I saw how big we'd gotten. I had no idea. And I just kind of was like, what do you mean you can get this in the town I grew up in? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, so those are all the places. You can also find all the same accounts on Instagram. I am sorry, social media people. I have left the gram and all social media. You can occasionally find me on Reddit if you can figure out who I am. I'm one of the polite ones.
Also, can I just say, if you do search out Evil Bean Coffee Liqueur, coolest label. Obsessed with it.
Yeah, it's a great label.
Yeah. It's like an evil crow / medicine man he's got a top hat. It's a great label.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah, it's super fun. That's honestly the swag I'm like waiting most for. Like there's got to be some really great swag with that in time.
God. Yes. If there's an Evil Bean t-shirt, I'll order it in a heartbeat, man. I'll send you money.
It's a good Halloween label. Also, shout out to Halloween. It's coming up.
It's coming. I told Joe before this podcast started that I'm putting out Halloween decor probably tomorrow against everyone's wishes. I don't care. It's time. It needs to happen. And then you guys are also available in many states as well. How many states are your products?
At this point, I think we're in 26 states with online shopping versus Fleviar. I think it's how it's pronounced.
Hot damn.
For the rest of it, I'm supposed to say things that it's totally legal to do that and to check the website to see which state they can ship to.
Yeah, the website's a great resource. There's a lot of really cool information about the history of Minden Mill, how it's a 100-year-old creamery. It's a beautiful, beautiful site. If you are in Nevada and have the chance to drive out there and check it out, I highly recommend it. It's on my list as well.
Also, Joe, if you're in the Tahoe area, because we're right near Lake Tahoe.
Ooh, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's 20 minutes away.
Fun. Sick. That's awesome. Joe, thank you so much for coming on today. Again, I just love catching up with you and shooting the shit and also talking about movies that we need to watch.
Yeah, I could have done that the whole time, but this is probably better.
This is probably better. This is the job that I've been given. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening to Joe and I ramble and catch up with each other today. We both very much appreciate it. We will be back in 2 weeks with another in-depth distilling conversation for you. Thank you again for joining us. Cheers.
This podcast has been brought to you by Spirits and Distilling for those who love to make and drink great spirits. Join our free newsletter today at spiritsanddistilling.com for pragmatic, technical, and creative distilling stories in your inbox every week. Sign up now at spiritsanddistilling.com or click on the link in the show notes.